This week, I am living with and testing the F-150 Tremor, a trim that promises to do it all on paper, inspired by the F-150 Raptor without the aesthetics, fanfare, and aggressive design. In fact, it kind of blends right in on the roadways with other F-150s, aside from the orange accents that we'll dive into later on. At one time, pickup trucks of this size were purchased solely because of their capability, their durability, towing, and payload capacity. But today in the 2020s, pickup trucks are a lifestyle now. In fact, in some ways, pickup trucks are more luxurious than crossovers and some body-on-frame SUVs, and some would argue they do the job better than SUVs. Well, if you're someone who does it all though, maybe you're not the traditional pickup truck buyer, but you like to have a pickup truck that is going to be comfortable, that has the off-road capability, the ground clearance, and you do go off-road throughout the year, this Tremor right here might be a better choice over a Lariat with the FX4. In today's video, we're going to go over what the Tremor has to offer us. We're going to check out the exterior, the interior, take it out for a test drive, give you guys my thoughts on living with this pickup truck, and why the Tremor, even though its price point can get rather expensive, it does make sense in 2026. So as always, let's begin with that pricing. As you can probably tell from the exterior, we have a 2025 Ford F-150 Tremor. Regardless of model year though, you're looking at a starting cost of around $65,000, which is somewhat modest in the lineup. It is about $5,000 more than the Lariat and far and away cheaper than what you're gonna find out of an F-150 Raptor. It was the middle ground, right? Because with the Lariat, you would go with the FX4 if you wanted all-terrain tires and a more rugged aesthetic. And then with the F-150 Raptor, you're going to be going on Baja trips and maybe even going off-road, having a lot of fun. Whereas the Tremor we're taking a look at today is a well-rounded pickup truck that gives you the ground clearance, that gives you the rugged aesthetics, but it's also dailyable as well. Unfortunately though, this pickup truck can get very expensive very quickly through the 402A package, which we have today on our model, giving us a final cost of over $82,000. Yeah, I know. But for the 2026 model year, you now have the 402B. And the 402B package gives you exactly what you want, but not that price tag that's going to make your heart explode. So with this 402B package, you now get that torsion limited slip differential and the transfer case out of the F-150 Raptor. And then for the interior, you also get heated and ventilated leather trimmed seats. All of this for $4,000 is great. It's a great value. But at $82,000, you're getting a lot more here, and well, we're gonna find out if this trim is still a great value comparing it to an F-150 Raptor, which also comes in just above 80 grand. With this trim, it all begins with the exterior. So up front, you are going to receive full LED headlights and LED fog lights for better visibility at night or in adverse weather conditions. As we have seen with every single Tremor model we have featured, whether it was the Explorer or the Expedition, you're gonna have your orange accents in that front grille, and that is a staple for this particular model. You're also gonna notice some cladding here for the front grille, which does look rather aggressive, gives you a burly and muscular look up front. At some angles, it almost looks like that Raptor. Because we have the 402A package, we are going to have a modular front bumper, gives you a bit more definition to the front fascia of this pickup truck, and we are gonna have tow hook mounts, so that way you can pull that Chevrolet Silverado out of the dirt and mud. Before we continue any further and check out the side profile and rear, you are gonna have these fake air vents on the hood, which really matches the aggressive body lines as well, giving you that sportier appearance. Now, as you make your way around to the side profile, this is where the magic really begins for this model, because you're gonna notice the 33-inch all-terrain tires that are wrapping these 18-inch alloy wheels. Interestingly enough, with the Explorer and Expedition, you have orange accents on those wheels, but that isn't the case out of the F-150. It's almost like Ford knows you'll be taking this off-road, and that orange will be peeling off very quickly. With this setup, you are gonna have an off-road tuned suspension, giving you a ground clearance of around 11 inches, which is about 1.5 inches to 2 inches better than most F-150s that come stock. On top of this, you are going to have better approach and departure angles, so that way when you are taking on the trails, going off-road, taking on deep snow and mud, there's going to be no issues there with this pickup. Also, because we have that ground clearance, we are going to have the running boards giving us easy access into the cab of this F-150. Letting us know this is the Tremor, you're going to notice the Tremor badge here and orange air vents. And we are going to have body color match side mirror caps with turn signal indicators. These do power fold, and you will have blind spot detection for added safety. As we make our way around to the back, as we see all the time in this market, the Tremor emblem is going to be on the bed of this pickup truck, once again letting you know what trim this is. Because we had the 402A package, we're going to receive LED taillights, giving us a modern look to this pickup truck and also maybe even some better visibility at night as well. And then one last Tremor badge on the back. For the lower portion of the rear bumper, here we have dual exhaust outlets, which look really sinister and sporty on this model. We have more tow hook mounts as well, and then we have our trailer hitch. Now, I don't want to get into what is powering this model just yet, but our towing capacity is around 11,000 pounds, so you're going to have a lot of versatility and utility out of this pickup. Now, the best part here about this F-150 is that you're going to have a dual action tailgate. So let's press this button here, and it opens up nice and wide, giving you easy access into what's in the bed of your pickup. Also, we are going to have the ability to charge up tools and anything else that you might be storing with you on a road trip or if you are at a construction site. I think a lot of you are going to like this though. So the tailgate automatically folds down, and from here you're going to have a workbench. You have a ruler right here. So Ford's definitely letting you know that they're focusing on their customers and what they're looking for and what they do with their pickups. And then also, you no longer have to manually raise this tailgate anymore. It does it on its own. That's pretty cool. Powering our Ford F-150 today is going to be the optional 3.5-liter twin turbocharged V6 engine. Producing 400 horsepower and 500 pound-feet of torque, it is paired with a 10-speed automatic transmission, and 4x4 does come standard here, with this being a rugged overlanding trim. Now, 0 to 60 times come in at around 5.5 seconds, making this pickup truck really fun to drive, and that torque is almost instant, so you can leave people in the dust when you are accelerating off the line. But more importantly, it's going to be that towing capacity and capability that you're going to want this engine. Now, there is an optional 5-liter naturally aspirated V8, and if you're someone looking for that type of powertrain, you'll at least have that here out of the Tremor. That too is paired with a 10-speed automatic transmission. Now, of course, we had to bring up fuel economy. I know. You're looking at right around 16 miles per gallon in the city and 21 miles per gallon on the highway. I am averaging about 16.5 during my week here with this pickup truck. So not the most economical, but you're buying this for its capability and not for its efficiency. Hopping inside this Ford F-150 Tremor, we are greeted by power-adjustable heated and ventilated leather-trimmed seats for both the driver and passenger, with the driver's side having 3-position memory for added convenience. This is all part of the 402A package for the 2025 model. Some of the features that we are experiencing today will be available out of the 402B for the 2026, where you save a lot of money. You're saving over $8,000 by choosing the 402B over the 402A, and I think that in terms of value, that would be the better option than going all out and spending $82,000 here for this pickup truck. Now, you can go with cloth upholstery if you so desire on the lower end with no packages included. However, as we're going to discover during the test drive, this pickup truck is rather comfortable and has somewhat of an upscale demeanor despite its off-road credentials. So you might want to go in the leather trim direction if you want to have the most optimal experience when it comes to the overall comfort. And I gotta say, these seats really are plush, they're supportive and suitable for longer road trips. So definitely a vehicle designed for overlanding and those long trips with your family. In front of you is going to be a heated leather wrap steering wheel, which does feel really nice in the hands. No aggressive 10 and 2, but firm 9 and 3 grips. However, no paddle shifters to rotate the gears yourself. Also found in front of you will be a head-up display, which is very easy to read and fully customizable. You can display your traffic sign recognition, digital speedometer, outside temperature, and time. Also, of course, with this being a modern pickup coming in at $82,000, you are going to have a full digital gauge cluster, and it is fully customizable. We have seen this numerous times in the Ford product line, so I'm not going to bore you today with the ins and outs of this display, but you can showcase your driver assistance features, your fuel economy, your tire pressure monitoring system, pitch and roll, off-road status, and then you can delve even more into this digital gauge cluster and showcase other pieces of information and customize each gauge individually. So a lot of customizability there, but I think a lot of you are focusing more on the off-road stuff if you are choosing the Tremor. Also found on the digital gauge cluster will be your different drive modes. So you have the dial on the dashboard, and from here we have plenty of those drive modes, from sport, eco, tow, normal, also slippery, off-road, and then you have your rock crawl. Now, in rock crawl, you're going to have your front-facing camera show up with trajectory. And we talked about this numerous times from Ford, that this particular screen, this particular setup, should be available regardless of drive mode. So if you are parking on a city street, parking in a garage, or just navigating your way around a tight corner, that should be there. So hopefully Ford listens in future model years. Now, as we make our way over to the infotainment system, here we're going to have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility to go along with onboard navigation, and we do have the Bang & Olufsen sound system to amplify the audio of your favorite music. Probably more importantly, though, is that this screen is very easy to get acclimated with. And that is one thing that I've grown to like about Ford software, where it's not going to be too confusing. And best of all here, with this being an F-150, you still have physical buttons and dials for your dual zone climate control, your AC, front rear defrosters, fan speed, fan direction. So no climate menu on the touchscreen. It's all right there with analog buttons. Love to see it. But at the bottom of the screen will be quick access icons for your audio, your Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, your navigation, your vehicle settings. But this can also be edited too if you want to have a favorite setting or a favorite menu. But from here, you have quick access to everything that you want out of this vehicle. There's also more settings here for phone list, sync navigation, your display, personal profile, general. It is all right here. And I think probably more importantly is that this screen is responsive. So I think a lot of you are definitely going to like that. Then lastly, we have our features tab for driver assistance, Pro Power onboard, zone lighting. So yes, we have zone lighting here with a Tremor, towing, trail turn assist, owner's manual, and record feedback. Then one more thing I want to point out here are the apps. So obviously Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, but we do have YouTube as well. Over to the far right will be another small display here, which I have to say, I do like. We've seen this a few times in the automotive industry, mostly from Acura, though, that have a little display like this. So from here, you can have your fuel economy statistics here as well, navigation, your phone if it's connected, and it just gives you a bit more intuitiveness out of this infotainment system. Then when you place the F-150 in reverse, you are going to receive a rear backup camera with trajectory to go along with the top view, so a good amount of visibility there. But you also have a front-facing camera, and this will give you a 180-degree view, so a lot of visibility if you are on those trails. Continuing on beneath the head unit, here we have our buttons and dials once again. You have physical volume and tuning knobs. You have a button for your camera systems, your hazards and traction control on and off, seek and track. I know a lot of you are definitely liking this so far with the analog layout, even though, I don't want to say it, there is some button clutter here. Now, of course, we have those dials for the dual zone climate control and all the buttons for the climate. But to the left, we are going to have our 2 high, 4 high, 4 auto, which I know a lot of you are definitely going to like here up here in New England, and 4 low. The 4 auto to me is really the only feature worth having here out of the Tremor, because if you do live up here in New England, you're going to be dealing with a lot of different types of terrain, also road conditions. So 4 auto is definitely the way to go here out of the Tremor, which again is only available through the optional packages. If you go with the base Tremor, you're not getting that, so keep that in mind. Now for the center console itself, here we have a USB-C and USB-A outlet and a wireless phone charging pad, and then we get to the center console itself where you can fold the gear shifter. Now why is that important? Well, now you have a workstation. You can set up a laptop, you can work in your truck, which is great if you are at a construction site, or maybe you're uploading videos to YouTube because you're going to be going off-road. You want to show the world what the Tremor can do. You can do that right here with the F-150. Now, you are still going to have a standard storage compartment, though, and it is deep. It is very, very deep, in fact, for a number of 17-ounce water bottles, but I was able to fit some camera gear here, which is something I really like, so that way I have easy access to it for today's video. You're also going to find 2 more USB-C outlets. Then to round out the front seating area above, we have the optional panoramic moonroof. Now this is a $2,000 option, so keep in mind here, we have the 402A package that comes in at over 11 grand, and then this gives us another $2,000 on top of that. So it ends up being over 82 grand for this pickup truck. I don't know if that's necessary, but if you want to have that natural light coming down to the interior, you have that out of the Tremor. Then one last thing I want to point out before we check out the second row seating area is The cluster of buttons on the left side of the dashboard, next to your steering wheel, next to your left knee. And this is where I think it's going to be really important, because you have your auto start stop here. I was searching for that for a while, and I found that on the left side, so thankfully I don't have to deal with that anymore out of the F-150 Tremor. You have your lights here. Also, you have your adjustable pedals, which I think a lot of you are definitely going to like if you're short or tall. Then for passengers in the second row, with this being a Super Crew cab, you're looking at right around 40 inches of legroom, which is more than enough for a large family. I mean, you have a flat floor here, so you can definitely have someone in the center. And because of the width of the F-150, you can have adults. And even with the panel moonroof, tall passengers will not be hitting their head on the headliner. At 40 inches of legroom, that is on par, and in some cases better than most crossovers. So if you're someone who's looking for a family-friendly pickup truck and you want to go off-road with the family, you can do that with the Tremor, since it only comes equipped with the Super Crew cab. Since we do have the 402A package, that gives us heated outboard seats. So now even more comfort is being tacked on to this vehicle. So not only we have leather trim seats, we have heated seats, so that way everyone is going to enjoy their time, maybe when they're going skiing and snowboarding during the winter. One last thing I do want to point out here is that you are going to have two center-mounted air vents to go along with two USB-C outlets, also a three-pronged outlet. And if that wasn't enough, you are going to receive a center armrest with two more cup holders. Prior to the 2026 model and the introduction of the 402B package, the Tremor was a bit of a difficult sell and more like a niche trim, because unless you were looking at buying an F-150 Raptor, most of you would choose an XLT or a Lariat with the FX4. And if you couldn't justify spending over 80 grand for a Raptor, you landed on the Tremor because of its overall capability, the ground clearance, all-terrain tires, off-road tuned suspension. Where it all went wrong prior to 2026 was the 402A, where you were paying close to $12,000 to get the Torsen limited slip differential, the transfer case, everything you want out of a Raptor, but not wearing the Raptor badge, and you were spending $82,000. And at $82,000, even when I'm looking at the price sheet here, it's like a shot to the heart. Like, it's just a pain there. Like, you gotta be kidding me. I'm spending $12,000 and then I pay $82,000 at the end of the day. Like, that hurts. That really does hurt. But for the 2026 model with the 402B, that's exactly what buyers wanted, because you can get the limited slip differential and the transfer case for under $4,000. You don't need to opt for a panel roof. You can save $2 grand right there. And then you're walking out the door below 70 grand. And if there's incentives, you're saving even more money. But for pickup trucks in this market, it always comes down to, is any of this necessary? Do you really need this? I'm sure you guys have heard that a number of times, that you could actually save like $20,000 and go with an XLT or a Lariat. You don't need to spend any more. But the Tremor now, today, for the 2026 model, makes a bit more sense. For one, it's no wider than an XLT or a Lariat, so it's not this obtuse, wide, ridiculous vehicle on the roadways. And then two, you're now not paying $82,000 or more for what you want mechanically. Also on top of this, you have a pickup truck that is comfortable. You would think with 33-inch all-terrain tires and an off-road suspension, it would not be dailyable. It would not be suitable, and it is. And if that's your question, can I live with an F-150 Tremor? That question is answered within 5 minutes of your test drive, because I can't believe how comfortable this pickup truck is on the roadways. The time I've been able to live with this pickup truck, the more I drive it, the more I like it, the more I understand it. Because I've always looked at this as being a niche trim, but now with the ability to get what you want and not spend $82,000, it does make sense. Now, when you combine everything together, the ground clearance, the off-road tuned suspension, 33-inch all-terrain tires, the Torsen limited slip differential, the transfer case, and then you have a couple more options. You can go with the V8 or this 3.5-liter twin turbocharged V6. I have not yet experienced the V8 out of this model, but the twin turbo V6 is fun. It is fun. Now, some people don't want to deal with a turbo. They don't want to deal with the turbo lag, but the torque is instant. It kicks in immediately, and the accelerations are linear. When you're entering highways, passing slower drivers, you can leave people in the dust, and it does so without pushing you back in your seat. It's a very smooth experience. Everything about this pickup truck is smooth. Now, there is one slight downside to this trim, and that is that when you're driving in the city, when you're driving in the suburbs, its maneuverability isn't as good as other trims. I've driven other F-150s before, especially under this generation, and in some ways it kind of drives like a crossover or like a Ford Expedition, whereas this Tremor is a bit more old school with its mannerisms. It feels like an old school pickup truck, which I think a lot of you have been searching for and wanting, and you might get more of that out of the naturally aspirated V8 compared to the twin turbo V6. Still though, its mannerisms, its cornering, its heavier steering, you don't really get a lot of this anymore out of modern pickups. And at least with the Tremor, you have some of that still here. You have some of that DNA infused into this platform, and I really do like that. It's been fun, it's been engaging, it keeps you on your toes, and at least for on-pavement driving, this isn't one of those pickup trucks where I sit there and think, you know, what's the point? What's the point in this? Because for those of you who casually go off-road, for those of you who casually overland, or up here in New England when you take on snow-covered roadways, this is going to be that pickup truck that pretty much is the jack of all trades. It fits into all different scenarios and situations. Also, for those of you who do live here in New England, there's going to be those days where you're up in New Hampshire, in the White Mountains, it is snowing up there heavily, and you're coming back down to Massachusetts, Connecticut, or Rhode Island. Most likely, you just went through snow, now you're coming down to sleet, and then maybe rain as you get closer to Boston and the coastline. And with the 4 Auto that we have here out of the 402A, but also the 402B, now you have a pickup truck that pretty much does exactly what you want up here in the Northeast and New England. This to me is just a great, well-rounded pickup truck that in the past I would have said absolutely not. That if you were someone who was spending $65,000 with no options, I would say just go with an FX4 out of a Lariat or XLT. The Tremor just doesn't necessarily make sense without the 402A. For the 2026 model, now it does make sense, and now the value is there. And while the model I'm in today wouldn't be my first recommendation if this was a couple of years ago, I think what we have here out of the Tremor is a cool, nifty vehicle. It's one of those pickup trucks that really does have the right balance. And that's where I think Ford right now is going to draw you in out of this trim. Because obviously you can go the aftermarket direction if this isn't enough for you and you want to make it more like a Raptor. And obviously with the Raptor there's even more capability, different suspension. But I think that what we have here out of the Tremor really should be as far as most of you go and as most of you guys need. Because just when you take a look at what you have on paper with the towing capacity, you have the ground clearance, the payload capacity, this is exactly what most Americans are looking for, also what most New Englanders would be looking for if they have deeper pockets. And I think that when you look at what you have here in terms of the suspension, the tire setup, even just the features alone, this is a nicer pickup truck over the XLT and the Lariat, and it has those luxury components that you would get out of a Platinum. So to me, the Tremor does make a lot more sense, and unlike the Tremor in the Explorer and maybe the Expedition, I fully understand it and get it with the F-150. This is a great all-around pickup truck that now the price tag is easier to stomach. Before though, I wouldn't be able to say that at all. It would just pain me to look at spending $12,000 for a package and then adding on anything else for accessories. So ultimately, after spending a week with this F-150, putting on some miles, and just kind of seeing what this pickup truck has to offer as a daily commuter, the time has been very rewarding. It's just that I'm still on the fence. Because even though we're not looking at 82 grand anymore with the 402B, would it be more sensible to choose a Lariat with the FX4 or even the XLT with the FX4? That's up for you to decide. But what we have here for the Tremor, mechanically, with its performance, even interior features and comfort, this really is a surprise. This is a standout. And really, in my opinion, does everything you want under one roof. So guys, let me know what you think here about the Ford F-150 Tremor. Is this a better option over the Lariat FX4? Obviously, the ground clearance, approach and departure angles are going to be a game changer alongside the torsion front limited slip differential and of course the transfer case, but all that does come at a premium, even for the 2026 model with the 402B. But with the 402B, you can bypass that bigger price tag of close to $11,000 for the 2026 model year, so you're not paying 82 grand anymore for what you really want out of this pickup truck. I really enjoyed my time with the Tremor. I think it's a surprising pickup truck considering the fact that it is supposed to be off-road tuned, and it still gave me the comfort that I was looking for on my weekday commutes. So I enjoyed this pickup truck, but I want to know what you guys think. Will you enjoy this pickup truck too? So guys, once again, thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I will see you guys next time.